The last Space Shuttle launch. NASA's last Space Shuttle countdown is underway, but bad weather may delay Friday's launch attempt. There's a 60% chance that rain or thunderstorms will postpone the liftoff of the Atlantis, Shuttle Weather Officer Kathy Winters has said. The weather improves with each passing day as the launch time gets slightly earlier. Friday's launch time is 11:26 a.m. The Atlantis is making one final supply run to the International Space Station before retiring. As many as 1 million spectators are expected to jam the Cape Canaveral area for the historic send-off. By April 1981, it seemed that the Space Shuttle Columbia had been part of the Florida landscape forever, gleaming white in the sun by day and the floodlights that bathed it all night. The cluster of rockets, space plane, and giant egg-like fuel tank looked like a craggy Matterhorn transposed to the humid coast. The Space Shuttle was a big deal then, but now, after 30 years of shuttle flights, the last mission ever is being prepped for its launching. Humans are no closer to the stars than before, and the space program is in tatters. And by 1981, a decade after the glories of the Apollo moon landings, it had been 6 years since Americans had last ventured into space, and many people were lamenting the retreat from space. The reusable space shuttle was supposed to make space flight cheap and almost as routine as air travel, and satellite launchings as uneventful as delivering the mail. There was money to be made in space, and a slate of black missions to keep the nation secure. But the shuttle was late and over budget. Those thermal tiles, vital to protecting it from the searing heat of re-entry, had an embarrassing habit of coming off. Some people called it the flying brickyard. Worse, overruns and delays had drastically depleted the agency's resources for science. NASA couldn't even afford to send a mission to Halley's Comet. Nonetheless, soon we were in the era of the space truck to nowhere, easy travel to orbit, and the sight of astronauts frolicking like weightless baby sea lions in the shuttle decks and laboratories. Women, scientists, a congressman and a senator, not to mention an array of guest astronauts from other countries, logged time in orbit, performing scientific experiments, often on one another. Captain Young, who had been to the moon twice, redefined the notion of the right stuff when he was pictured in his command chair and his reading glasses, looking over flight plans. It was quite thrilling to watch astronauts blast off on smoke pillars, but after a while it was somewhat irritating that they weren't going anywhere but in circles around the Earth, and the science they were doing was mostly boring compared with the results being beamed back from the Voyager spacecraft, exploring the outer planets at considerably less expense and risk. The shuttle had been declared operational after 4 flights, but it could never be routine. Gravity might be the weakest force in nature, as the physicists tell us, but the violence needed to overcome it and release us from the Earth is something else. The space age had begun with rocket planes like the X-15 that went up and glided back down, but the shuttle's design had been compromised by politics and economics. A more expensive and safer version would have put the crew far above, as on the towering moon rockets, rather than surrounded by booster rockets and a giant fuel tank and the clunky arrangement that prevailed, and NASA's managers were drinking their own Kool-Aid. Then, on January 28, 1986, the Challenger blew up, and the Columbia shuttle broke apart on re-entry in 2003. These were bad accidents, but the shuttle program kept going somehow. Until now. America seems to have no vision at all for its space program, no plan for where to go next or how. It's hard to blame NASA for that. NASA works for the president, and the president can only do what Congress will give him the money for, and Congress supposedly answers to the people, that is to say, his campaign contributors. In other words, so it's okay to spend trillions and trillions of dollars on war and war making, but they can't give NASA the billions of dollars it needs to go back up into space. Have they somehow forgotten that there's a spiritual side to spaceflight? There's a spiritual side or part to everything. Perhaps it's part of God's plan for humans to go to the stars, to populate the galaxies and the universe. Yes, the Creator has bigger plans for humanity, and they cannot be simply ignored or wished away. America is messing up badly. This country has dropped the ball in some kind of way when it comes to space exploration. It's humanity's destiny or fate to go to the stars and to populate the universe in the future. Earth is our home world and will always be. It's the birthplace of humankind. But the human population is always increasing. Yes, overpopulation of the earth is real. This planet is only so big, and only so many people can live here. So, the question should be asked, what happens when we ignore God's plans for humankind? This too is also a part of the book of Revelation, another physical manifestation of the book of Revelation. There is a physical part and there is a spiritual part to everything. It's also about what kind of world are we leaving to the future generations. Revelation chapter 3, verse 15. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would rather thou be cold or hot. 16. So then, because thou art lukewarm, and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. 17. Because thou say, I am rich, and increased with goods, and have need of nothing, and know not that thou art wretched, and miserable, and poor, and blind, and naked. 18. I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou may be rich, and white raiment, that thou may be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear, and anoint thine eyes with eyesalve, that thou may see. Revelation chapter 9. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. 2. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. 3. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. 4. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those humans which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. 5. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he strikes a human. 6. And in those days shall humans seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. 7. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of humans. 8. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. 9. And they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. 10. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. It's time for all prophecy to be fulfilled. The limits or tipping points are being reached, and these are more signs of the end times. transition days, which is a continuing, day-by-day process of extraordinary happenings, changes, and events. It's called fate or destiny. Everything is connected, and everything is numbered. The fourth angel is sounding.